Hey everybody, it's Casey and welcome to a journey through the history of gaming controllers. These aren't just pieces of plastic, these are the tools that transport us into incredible digital worlds. From the humble beginnings of Pong to the mind-blowing tech of the PS5 DualSense, controllers have evolved drastically alongside the games themselves. Today, we're going deeper than just buttons and joysticks. We're uncovering the hidden secrets, the fascinating facts, the things you never knew. You never knew about the controllers that shaped gaming history. Get ready to have your minds blown wider than the exploding cartridges of an N64. We'll be covering everything from the Atari 2600 joystick to the PS5 DualSense. And trust me, there are surprises in store for even the most seasoned gamers out there. So buckle up, grab your favorite controller, if you dare, because things are about to get button-mashingly interesting. Let's kick things off with the granddaddy of them all, the Atari 2600 joystick. This thing is practically prehistoric in the world of gaming, but don't let its simplicity fool you. This bad boy set the standard for controllers for years to come. But here's the thing. Ever notice how it's just a stick and a button? No ergonomics, no fancy features, just pure, unadulterated gaming goodness. You see, back in 1977 when the Atari 2600 debuted, cost was a huge factor. Atari needed a controller that was cheap to manufacture, and believe it or not, that single button design. It was all about keeping things affordable. They figured, hey, one button is all you need to have fun, right? And you know what? They weren't wrong. This little guy became an icon, a symbol of gaming's golden age. But here's the real kicker. That single button wasn't even originally intended for gaming. The Atari team actually borrowed the design from industrial equipment, things like arcade machines and even military hardware. It's true. Who knew our beloved joystick had such humble and, let's be honest, kind of intense beginnings? Next up, we're jumping forward to 1985 with the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, and its revolutionary controller. Now, this is where things start to get really interesting. This controller introduced the world to the D-pad, a seemingly simple addition that changed the game forever. Literally. Before the D-pad, directional input was all over the place. But Nintendo, in their infinite wisdom, looked at the design of a calculator, yes, a calculator, and thought, you know what? That plus-shaped button arrangement would be perfect for controlling Mario. And bam, the D-pad was born. But here's the real mind-blower. That iconic gray brick of a controller? It wasn't just designed for comfort, it was designed for durability. Nintendo knew that kids could be, let's just say, enthusiastic with their gaming, so they built the NES controller like a tank. It could withstand drops, spills, even the occasional rage quit. Hold on to your hats, gamers, because things are about to get turbocharged. We're blasting into the 16-bit era with the Sega Genesis and its radical controller. This bad boy was all about pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo, and what better way to do that than with more buttons? The Genesis controller was a game changer, literally. It introduced the world to the 6-button layout, paving the way for more complex fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Suddenly, players had a whole arsenal of moves at their fingertips. But here's the thing, those extra buttons weren't always a good thing. See, early versions of the Genesis actually came with a 3-button controller. It wasn't until later that Sega realized the potential of 6 whole buttons and released a revised controller. But here's the real kicker. Those early 3-button controllers, they were actually more expensive to manufacture. Talk about a plot twist. Chapter 4. SNES Controller, Shouldering the Burden of Innovation. Hold on to your hats, gamers, because things are about to get turbocharged. We're blasting into the 16-bit era with the Sega Genesis and its radical controller. This bad boy was all about pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo, and what better way to do that than with more buttons? The Genesis controller was a game changer, literally. It introduced the world to the 6-button layout, paving the way for more complex fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Suddenly, players had a whole arsenal of moves at their fingertips. But here's the thing, those extra buttons weren't always a good thing. See, early versions of the Genesis actually came with a 3-button controller. It wasn't until later that Sega realized the potential of 6 whole buttons and released a revised controller. But here's the real kicker, those early 3-button controllers, they were actually more expensive to manufacture. Talk about a plot twist. Chapter 5, N64, A New Dimension of Control. Get ready to enter the third dimension because we're warping into the world of the Nintendo 64. This console was all about pushing the boundaries of three-dimensional gaming, and what better way to navigate those polygons than with an analog stick? That's right, the N64 controller was the first to introduce this revolutionary input method, giving players unprecedented precision and control. No more clunky D-pad movements. Now we could move with the grace of a digital ballerina. Or at least that was the idea. But here's the thing, those early analog sticks, they were notoriously fragile. See, Nintendo opted for a less durable design that relied on gears and potentiometers, which, while precise, were prone to wear and tear. This led to the dreaded drift, a phenomenon that still haunts gamers to this day. But hey, at least we were venturing into brave new worlds, even if our controllers sometimes went haywire. Chapter 6. PlayStation DualShock, Feeling the Game. Buckle up because we're entering the era of Rumble. The PlayStation DualShock wasn't just a cool name, it was a revolution in gaming immersion. For the first time, we could actually feel the action thanks to those groundbreaking vibration motors. But the DualShock wasn't just about shaking things up, literally. It also solidified the use of dual analog sticks, making three-dimensional movements smoother than ever before. But here's the kicker, those rumbling motors, they weren't originally intended for the PlayStation. Sony actually planned on releasing a separate rumble pack, similar to what the N64 had, but at the last minute, they decided to cram those bad boys right into the controller itself. Talk about a game changer. Next up, we're heading into the world of Xbox with a controller that needs no introduction, mainly because it's so darn big. The original Xbox controller, affectionately known as the Duke, was notorious for its massive size and unconventional button layout. But before you write it off as a design disaster, there's a method to the madness. You see, Microsoft wanted to create a controller that felt substantial, powerful, like you were holding a weaponized brick. And let's be honest, they succeeded. But here's the fascinating part. Despite its bulky design, the Duke was actually surprisingly ergonomic. Those large handles and well-spaced buttons made it surprisingly comfortable to hold, even for extended gaming sessions. It's proof that sometimes, bigger is indeed better. Chapter 8. Wii Remote. Motion controls. Take the stage. Hold on to your Wiimotes because things are about to get, well, a little crazy. The Nintendo Wii took the gaming world by storm with its motion controls, and the Wii Remote was at the heart of it all. Suddenly, we weren't just pressing buttons, we were swinging tennis rackets, bowling strikes, and yes, even accidentally throwing controllers at our TVs. But the Wii Remote's journey to our living rooms was anything but straightforward. Nintendo actually experimented with a variety of prototypes, including a bizarre two-handed design that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. Thankfully, they eventually landed on the sleek and intuitive design we know and love. The Wii Remote proved that motion controls could be more than just a gimmick. They could be a genuinely fun and engaging way to play games. Chapter 9. Xbox 360 Controller. Refining Perfection. After the, let's call it ambitious design of the Duke, Microsoft knew they had to step up their game. And boy, did they ever with the Xbox 360 controller. This thing was a masterpiece of ergonomic design, setting a new standard for comfort and functionality. But here's the secret sauce. Microsoft didn't just guess at what felt good. They invested heavily in research and development, using heat maps, motion capture, and countless hours of playtesting to create a controller that felt like a natural extension of your hands. The result? A controller so comfortable, so intuitive, that it became the gold standard for a generation of gamers. It's proof that sometimes, it's the little details that make all the difference. Chapter 10. PS5 DualSense. A sensory symphony. Fast forward to the present, and we've got a controller that's pushing the boundaries of immersion like never before. The PS5 DualSense is a technological marvel, with haptic feedback and adaptive triggers that let you feel every nuance of the game. But the real genius lies in the details. Those haptic motors aren't just about rumbling, they're capable of delivering incredibly precise sensations, from the subtle patter of raindrops to the jarring impact of a shotgun blast. And then there are the adaptive triggers, which can dynamically adjust their resistance, giving you a tangible sense of weight and tension. It's like having the game world at your fingertips. Literally. Outro. The future of controllers is in your hands. From the one-button simplicity of the Atari joystick to the sensory overload of the PS5 DualSense, Gaming controllers have come a long way, baby. It's amazing to see how these devices have evolved alongside the games themselves, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But the real question is, what's next? Will we see controllers that read our minds? Transport us into virtual worlds? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the future of gaming is in your hands. Literally. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. Which controller is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gaming history content.